as our reference. Now that reference image will just stay right where we've got it. So we've got it there to look at. If we want, we could put it in the background and trace over top of it, but we don't necessarily need to do that. All right, I'm going to turn grid on so we can see our grid. All right. So if you like what you're seeing, folks, by all means, hit the tap the like button, share, subscribe, do all of that. Now, if we lock our view, then it will scale up and down our reference image as well. So that's helpful. If we want to scale that quickly, again, we can come into our reference image and hit transform, and now we can rotate it and scale it and put it, position it wherever we want. And then once you get it where you want, tap the screen and it's set. Okay, and as long as you're locked, your view is locked, it'll move with you. But then the moment you unlock that view, now your reference image stays where you put it. Okay? This device here is a Wacom 24-inch Wacom Cintiq multi-touch, and it is tied to my MacBook Pro. It is a 2025 MacBook Pro running an M4 Max Pro Max chip. But this application, Nomad Sculpt, will run on a tablet as well, iPad, Android, whatever your preference is. Again, today we've been asked to sculpt Tails, which is a Sonic the Hedgehog character. I'm straightening out my phone here to make sure we're getting a good capture of our screen. I'm still setting up my live stream situation. We were working with an iPad before, but now I'm using my Wacom Cintiq, so apologies for the landscape orientation. We will get this figured out and set up in the future, but right now we're just going to get with it and start creating Tails. So the first thing we need, obviously, is our head and body. So we're going to lay this out and get our proportions correct. As you can see, the body is a little bit elongated, so I'm just going to stretch this guy out here a little bit, and then we're going to clone it. I'm going to open up my object panel and pin that open so we can name it. We'll call this body, and then we're going to clone it, and we're going to move it up here where the head would go. All right, the head's a little wider, the body's a little shorter, so let's go ahead and scale this body down a little bit. Bring it up into the head area. And we will name this head. All right. I'm going to grab my move tool. My move tool. And we've got symmetry turned on, so what we do on one side will happen on the other side. And let's see. He's a little top heavy in his head, so let's pull these sides in. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's turn on silhouette for the moment. So what we're doing goes all the way through our model. And then basically you just want to get the shape right, the overall shape. And we'll do the same thing on our body. I'm going to pull this torso out a little bit, like so. Let me know if you got any questions, any comments. Anything you'd like to share? All right, I think we're going to pull this head up a little bit here. And again, we're just getting stuff in the neighborhood of where it needs to be proportionately. That's the first step of doing any sculpt operation, is you want things, when you're blocking out your figure, you want to get things set up proportionately with your primitives. These are primitives. These start out as sphere. A sphere is a primitive, just like a cube, like a pyramid or a cone or a torus. We work with primitives, and then we go ahead and sculpt and modify those to look the way that we want. But the first step is to get everything set up in the proper composition in terms of size and all of that. So, all right. Now I'm going to grab my sculpt. I'm going to turn symmetry I'm going to leave it on, actually. We're just adjusting symmetry from the side on the X-plane. So let's go ahead and pull this in here. Might need to do my tool a little bigger. Let's increase the size. There we go. For people beginning in 3D modeling, what software would you recommend that's user-beginner friendly? This one right here. How long have you used Nomad Sculpt? I've used Nomad Sculpt now for about 6 months. I've been a 3D modeler over 30 years, but Nomad Sculpt is new to me. But I would highly recommend this software to a beginner. You can use 3 fingers, by the way, to increase or decrease the size of your brush. I'm just used to using my thumb over here on the slider. You can do it either way you want. But yeah, beginning 3D modeling, this is an excellent application to start with. Highly recommend it. And I am not paid by Nomad Sculpt to say that. I'm just telling you that from my personal experience. It is an excellent application. A little bit of grace is requested here. This is my first time with this character. I'm not too familiar with him, so. All right, I'm going to smooth out. Actually, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and adjust the resolution. So let's go ahead and subdivide and bring this down. So we can do, okay, it's not wanting to work with me here. There we go. I'm going to turn on wireframe so you can actually see the wireframe. It is not free. It's $20 on the tablet versions. Have you used P-Core Mac version? I'm not sure what P-Core is. That does not even ring a bell. But the software is not free. It's $20 for tablet, and then if you're working on a desktop, I believe it's $35. All right, so again, we're working with resolution here. And when we work in multi-resolution, you can scale it up or down based on your needs. Right now, we want to smooth it in a low resolution, so I'm just going to pull it back there, and then we'll grab our smooth tool. Smooth basically just straightens out your geometry. You just purchased this. Excellent. Do I have any recordings? I do have some live stream recordings on my YouTube channel. I have not done any formal videos yet. I have been requested to do formal videos, and we're working on that. So that is in the works. Okay, so I think that's pretty smooth. Let's go ahead and turn wireframe off. Yep, looks pretty good. Yep. I'm going to turn grid off. We don't need grid right now. I'll just hide that so we're unencumbered. Oop. Boom. There we go. Hello. There we go. Let's lock that. It seems to keep wanting to move on me, so we'll just lock it down. Okay, so I'm planning to use it to design details for my model railroad. Excellent. Have you seen the train that that I just made? Actually, it's over here on the other table. Let me grab it real quick. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is actually a train that I made for, I call it the Holiday Express because it's obviously centered around the holidays. But this is This is a train. Oh gosh, where'd all that stuff come from? Looks like somebody dripped something on my train. It looks like it's Holiday Jam. Anyway, yeah, so this is the train. This is the engine. The roof is removable. We've got Janny couplers back here. If you're a train person, you know what those are. The lighting is not too good in here. I've got it turned down so we don't have any glare on our screen. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I create here in Nomad Sculpt. This is actually also part of our holiday collection. This is a piece of the track that goes with the train, and as you can see, made it so the pieces clip together. We've got curved pieces and straight pieces. Yes, everything is created in Nomad that I'm showing you. And then we've got our gingerbread house, which was, sorry, the roof sits on top of it there. It's not one of these items that you want to move around a lot once you get it put together. So there is our gingerbread house, and the roof was designed to print flat, so it prints without supports. So again, all done in Nomad Sculpt. Good, yes. Thank you. Yeah, if you check out, let me bring up TikTok here real quick. If you check out our...
I have the...
Okay, sorry about that. If you go to our TikTok channel, actually you're here now because you're watching the live, but if you go to, you'll see the videos. I show a number of videos and some techniques, some different techniques on how to use Nomad Sculpt. So this one here is about our train, and this one here is about the gingerbread house. And then for those of you who are interested, we do have a link tree, which will take you to, because I get this question every time we go live, if we have our models for sale, if you can join our Patreon and stuff like that, and the answer is yes. All of our links are right here, where it says link tree. If you click on that in our bio, it'll take you to this page, and there's all different kinds of stuff here you can explore. So give it a look. Let me know if you have any questions, of course, and let's get back to working on tails here. All right, so tails, this is what we're working on over here. Again, this is by request. So I figured we'd just go ahead and go ahead and do it. So, all right, so we've got the head laid out. We've got the start of the body. Let's go ahead and lay in the legs. Let's go ahead and do that next. So I'm going to need a tube. I'm going to turn grid back on. I like working with a grid. And then I'm going to use the path. And we'll lay down our first leg here. All right, so there's that. All right, we're going to go ahead and validate that. And that's probably about the right diameter. All right, and then of course we need two legs, so I'm going to go ahead and mirror that across the x-axis here. All right, and let's see, let's pull this in a little bit. I'm not going to worry about posing him right now. We're just going to go ahead and set up our model, and then we'll go ahead and put him in the proper pose. So let's just go ahead and get him executed first, and then we'll worry about posing him. All right, I'm going to do another tube, and we're going to do that for the arms. So I'm going to draw an arm up here, and we're going to execute that. And we're working off of the same mirror, so it's going to go ahead and mirror it as well. All right. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to name these. So this will be leg. It's always good to name your objects. That way there's no confusion later when you're trying to figure out what's what. Highly recommend it. And body 1, that should be head. I'm not sure why that changed. That's probably because we went ahead and did some playing around with the resolution. All right, so let's see. My scale is a lot smaller. Thank you, Buffest Cabbage. That's an interesting username. My scale is a lot smaller. Scale of what? I'm curious to know. And then Is Nomad Sculpt better than Silhouette Studio? I have not used Silhouette Studio. I am not sure. But I will make a note to check that out later, and I can get back to you on that. Thank you for the follows, of course. Absolutely. All right. So let's see. We've got our legs. We've got our arms. We need to make some socks and shoes. And again, I like to move quickly on this and lay out the major components first, and then we'll go back and tweak. Right now, I'm going to use another tube for our socks. We'll make this a little bigger. And again, we're going to mirror that because we need 2 socks, 1 for each leg. The shoes we're going to do a little differently, so we'll come back to that. I'm going to call this socks. And then we're going to clone that. And I'm going to name these glove cuffs. Do I work with environments? Is it free to use? No, it is not. Nomad Sculpt is on the Apple Store. It is a paid application. But it's $20. You can't beat it. And do you work with environments? I'm a little confused on that question. Do I create environments? I generally don't. But can I use Nomad Sculpt to create scenes? Are you talking about scenes? It's a one-time pay, $20. 35 for the PC. For PC, it's available on PC and Android and iPad. The desktop version, which would be the PC or Mac version, is $35. So do you work with environments? Can you create scenes? Yes, you can. In fact, I was just thinking about a scene this morning that I might try on my own time. And if you guys are lucky enough, you'll be here to witness it. All right, so we need to do tails. Let's do another tube. And we're going to need 2 of these. But I'm going to kind of say that this is about where his tail goes and what it looks like. That's a little thick. Let's cancel that. This tablet here is a Wacom Cintiq 24 multi-touch tied to my MacBook Pro. All right, there's our tails. Okay, I've lost my reference picture, so let's go over and grab this, bring it back over here so we can see the guy. How easy is it to work with textures? Very easy. It's actually very easy. Again, this is a touch screen, 24-inch Wacom Cintiq multi-touch, 24-inch. Did I say 24-inch? One more time, 24-inch, tied to my MacBook Pro. It's easy to work with textures. That's my opinion, but I've also been working in 3D and modeling for 30 plus years. So I'm probably not the best person to answer. Comparatively speaking, I would say it's easier than most applications, most 3D modeling applications, if that makes sense. All right, let's see. So we've got our head, we've got our body, we've got our arms, legs, cuffs for the shoes, cuffs for the gloves, and our tail. The tail's probably not big enough, but we'll worry about that later. All right, now I'm going to add in some primitives for our feet. Oh, it looks like tails just gained some weight there. All right, I'm going to scale these down, and right about here is where our shoes are going to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this from the side view. Oops, did we not get it right on the side? There we go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out to make it a little bit more in the shape of a shoe. And we'll scale it down a little bit. Again, we'll get the proportions right once we get all the once we get all the primitives laid out. Oh, that's what's wrong. I keep locking my screen. All right, so let's do this. Let's bring our reference over. We'll unlock the screen and then put him right over there. There we go. Now everything moves with me. That's why I was trying to figure out why my vision keeps, vision high, and why my reference image keeps moving. I had a special request to do Tails. Yeah, okay, so he recognizes right away who it is. All right, let's make sure, let's see that if I can do it some justice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and up the topography on our sphere. Actually, I think we're fine. We'll just work with it the way it is. Validate it. So now we're still set to silhouette, so I can go ahead and pull the back end of this shoe in a little bit. There we go. All right. Blender. Are you using Blender? No, this is Nomad Sculpt is the name of the application. Nomad Sculpt, running on a MacBook Pro, M4 Pro Max chip. It's a 25 MacBook Pro, and it's tied to a Wacom Cintiq 24-inch multi-touch. You can run this application on an iPad or an Android tablet as well. And I do, but I also like to use the desktop for the added power. So, yeah. I forget what the username was. Paw Patrol. What's his name? Sky from Paw Patrol. How are we doing so far? Just looking. Are we looking like we're getting in the neighborhood? Because if not, we'll scrap it and start over. You let me know. You're in charge here. Sky from Paw Patrol was the one that asked for Tails, and I said, we don't usually do sculpts by request, but let's do it. All right. So. All right, he's got a pretty substantial tail, doesn't he? Let's go ahead and drop another point in there. Put a little more size to it. All right, and again, we're working in complete symmetry right now just to set up our elements, and then we'll go ahead and turn symmetry off and edit the elements individually to get our pose. Can you remind me again how to use a tablet type thing for the computer version so I can run it on my Mac Mini? Well, so it really depends on your tablet. Again, I specifically got the Wacom Cintiq because it has multi-touch capability. This particular one, I should say. So beyond that, again, it really depends on which tablet you have. If you have a multi-touch capable tablet, then it's just like using it on an iPad. Mine's tied in with a USB-C connector. It's really important that you do the research because a lot of display tablets out there don't have multi-touch capability. And if you want that to be part of your workflow, like you're working on a iPad or an Android tablet, you need that multi-touch capability. But not every display tablet has that capability. So don't let that trip you up, okay? And the reason is because I almost bought a $500 display tab, and I'm like, wow, this is a really good price. And then I started doing my research with AI and whatnot, and I'm like, there's only 2 models out there that have multi-touch capabilities. That's not to say that you can't use a tablet that doesn't have multi-touch, but now you're going to be using a keyboard and your stylus at the same time. And, simple tasks like zooming in and out with your fingers like you do on a tablet, or when it comes to rotation, being able to rotate like that, again, with your hand. And sometimes when I'm working, I'll even use both hands to accomplish the same objective. See, it's a lot more fluid way of working, at least in my opinion. And if your tablet doesn't support that, then you're going to be frustrated. And if you can't return it, you're going to be stuck with a piece of equipment that you probably don't want to use. So, your Mac product per every 5 years. Yeah, one Mac product per 5 years. Yeah, I get you there. Yeah, they're not cheap. And I've been using Mac computers literally since 1984. So I've been through a lot of computers. I know your pain as far as the price goes. And I could use PC, but I always tell people just use what you're used to. But yeah. So Wacom, the 24-inch, I think there's another manufacturer, Huion. It's a Chinese company. Wacom is manufactured and it's a Japanese product. I don't remember the name of the, do your research, but there's only a couple of manufacturers and products out there that have multi-touch capability. And I don't want to point you to the wrong brand. Again, obviously, Wacom makes one. XP Pen, I think that was it. I think they have a 16-inch. But there were, I kind of went back and forth on the XP Pen. And again, I don't remember if it's multi-touch. I don't remember if they have a multi-touch capability on any of their tablets. So again, I can't say for sure, and I don't want to say something that is false. So, all right, I am going to move these legs out a little bit because I want to move the shoes out a little bit. So let's go ahead and just move all this stuff. Oh, is it? Okay, what do you have? Go ahead and share with everybody. You've got an XP Pen. Give them the specs. Vision, pay attention. Looks like I can't even tell what his username is. Let me click on him here. User detected 0. Sounds like he's got an XP Pen. Or maybe you guys just want to connect and he can give you some specifics if he doesn't want to put it in chat. Thank you for that information. Yeah, like I said, I hate to give out bad information, so if I don't know, I'm glad that obviously there's somebody here who does. Artist Pro 16P. So is that, okay, that might have been the other one that I was looking at, and I was really close to pulling the trigger on that one, but at the last minute, and I think it might have been an issue of availability too. I've used Wacom for years, so I'm like, you know what? And it's about the same price, isn't it? It's about $1,000 or $1,200. And I'm like, you know what? For the extra money, I'm going to go with a product that that I'm familiar with and that I know will work with my stuff. Yeah, that multi-touch, it adds an extra layer. Obviously, it's an electrostatic display, kind of like your iPad or your tablet. But it's okay. Again, Vision, make sure it's the multi-touch because they have a couple of different models. And when I was looking at them, the price was pretty similar to this. Yeah, make sure that multi-touch is part of what is part of what's available. Because, like I said, if it's not multi-touch, you will be a little upset at your purchase. All right, back to sculpting. All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead and go from the front here. I want to add the ears. There's a number of ways that we could do ears. I think we'll just go ahead and try the sphere approach. So I'm going to add another sphere. And we'll move it up here. Whoop. No, we're going to move it. We're not going to rotate it. There we go. Mickey Mouse. Ta-da. We're done. Thank you for coming. Have a nice day. I'm kidding. Let's scale it down. And we'll validate it so we can sculpt it. And then we're going to grab our move tool and we're going to pull the point out a little bit. He could use an iPad 2nd gen. No, I know, but I think he said he does not want to add an iPad to his lineup. All right, I'm going to angle these just a smidge. And then we'll continue to sculpt. Right now I've got my sculpting tool set to silhouette. So again, if you can imagine this as like, instead of a three-dimensional object, it's actually flat. So when I grab it on the side, it's moving the entire side and not just a portion of it. Really helpful in getting the overall shape of your composition in the right shape. Is it easier to use a computer or tablet? It's exactly the same. If you have a touchscreen enabled display like this, it's exactly the same. I will say that a computer, I did upgrade my iPad and my desktop in the same year, early last year. So it's, they're both very capable, but at the end of the day, the computer does have more horsepower, and you're able to push more polygons as a result. Oh yeah, you can use a mouse. I'm not saying that you can't, but at the end of the day, I much prefer to interact, because it's just like you're working with clay here. Whoop, hold on. I'm going to lock that down again so we can bring our reference image over. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to do this way. Let's do this. Let's use our trim tool. Trim this into shape. Trim. I'm going to start with an ellipse. And we're going to trim the back of this ear. Actually, I'm going to flip it, so we're going to trim everything outside of the circle. And then we'll flip it again. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. And then we're going to trim it like this. And we'll see what that looks like. I don't know if I did it enough or if I did it too much. Well, let's switch to the front and see. Okay, that looks a little better. Let's see. Nico, hi, welcome. Tried on a computer and it seems a bit hard to move the image around. We'll have to try again. Alien, hey, welcome. Thanks for showing up, bud. Yeah, I got a special request from a viewer if we could play around a little bit here and do Tails. And I said, hey, why not? And you know what's funny is I immediately thought of you. I'm like, this is something that Alien should be doing. But it's all good. I'm just going to zoom in here. I want to get this more to a point. Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate it. That's why we're here, just to create awesome stuff. And you guys go, oh, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. And then we say, you're welcome. And we move on with our day jobs. Actually, this is my day job. All right. So that's a little harsh on the back end. Don't worry, we'll smooth that out. But right now, I just want to get the position and the angle right. So I'm going to tilt that a little bit here. And again, I'm not super familiar with Tails, so I want to make sure I'm doing him justice here. All right. Let's play around with our resolution here. I'm going to go to Voxel Mesh, and we are going to tune this down a little bit. Actually, I'm going to tune it up, and then res it up, and then res it down. So by resing it up first, I define this edge. All right, so I'm going to set it to like 350, 400. That'll sharpen that edge, right? And then we can down res it so we can walk in here and do some major smoothing very quickly. Let's see, set my brush to this size and the intensity about 150. And now you see there, that roughness goes away. And we're going to do it to the front too, to round this edge. I haven't done a Sonic model. You know what? This is my first one too, so we're in this together. I did see your Gremlin a couple weeks back. I think it was a couple weeks back. I like the Gremlin. You're doing great on that. Mogwai. Shannon Troy, this is Nomad Sculpt. Just for the reference, Shannon, I am semi-retired. I turned 60 last year, so that's the reason this is my day job. I have that luxury right now. So, all right, let's see. How are we doing here? All right, I kind of like what we've got so far. Of course, the artist in me is just like, what are we doing? We can do this so much better. Again, bear with me, Sky from Paw Patrol. This is my first attempt at Tails. All right, let's go ahead and open up our palette here for the objects. I want to name this. This is going to be ear. And what's this here? That's our shoe. Okay, I'm going to just call it shoe. All right. All right, one thing I'm noticing right away, and this is the time when you're laying out your character or your sculpt that you want to make sure that all your proportions are correct. So the first thing that I'm noticing right here is his upper body's probably a little too fat out here and not fat enough here. So we're going to fix that. Are we straight on here? Yes, okay. So again, we're still in silhouette mode, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool, and we're going to move his gut out just a little bit and pull his chest in just a little bit like that. Okay. Shannon Troy, again, this is Nomad Sculpt running on a MacBook Pro tied to a Wacom Cintiq multi-touch screen. All right, let's go ahead and fix this shoe real quick. I'm going to trim the bottom of it. So right about there. Okay. All right. The legs are a little wider at the bottom, a little narrower at the top. Just things I'm picking up here. We also have to lay out his hand. We need to create a hand, mirror it, and make it so we can articulate the hand and move it into the position that we want. What else? All right, we're obviously going to need to do his whiskers, but that'll be a separate piece. Look for turnaround. Let's see. Look for turnaround Sonic. Turnaround Sonic. All right, let me look. Hold on. Turn around Sonic. Oh, okay. So we've got isometric views, front, back, side. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Look at there. No, that's Supersonic. That's not Tails. All right, let's do a turnaround Sonic Tails. There we go. That's a good suggestion. Awesome. Is Nomad easier than Blender to use? Absolutely. Anybody that uses Blender that disagrees with me, by all means, step in here. But yes, I do believe that Nomad is 100% easier to use. Hold on, I might pull this in as a reference now. Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to copy this image. We're going to run back over to Affinity. Affinity Photo. I'm going to paste this in here. We're going to scale it up. I wish it was higher resolution, but we'll deal with what we got. Let's crop it. We only need this much here. Okay, boom. And then we'll save that as Tails reference number 2. Tails 2. Actually, I'm going to call it Tails ISO. Yeah, let's do that. All right, let's bring that in as our reference, shall we? Don't save. Back to Nomad. Just touch Nomad. Okay, here we go. I've been trying to get familiar with Blender and I just can't do it. Yeah, Blender is, there is a bit of a learning curve, I'm not going to lie. And Alien can attribute to that as well, or agree with me on that. All right, so let's go ahead and import Tails 2, or Tails ISO. All righty. And I'm going to transform, because I want to make it just a little bit bigger. Tap your screen, and now it sticks with your screen, unless you lock your screen, in which case it moves around with your object. Okay, how are we doing on our profile? We're not too far off on the ears. I'm going to close that. We don't need that open. Looks like we need to tilt them up, so let me go ahead and go here. I'm going to go ahead and lock or recenter our pivot point. His ears are just a little bit more alert. You know what they say about alerts? Be alert. The world needs more alerts. All right. Cool. Yeah, let us know how it goes. Stop by. We're always here. Well, not always, but I'm here at least. I think Alien sculpts more than I do, at least live. And I'm here. I try to get here at least one day a week. We started redoing the Foundry report, so we're going to be doing that Thursday mornings for a couple of hours, and then that'll be more of a face-to-face live situation. And then I try to sculpt at least 1 or 2 days a week, more if I have time. Right now, I'm working on the Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day collection is our next ones. All right, so it looks like the back of our head needs to come out here. So let's go ahead and move that out. Looks like that ear needs to be fattened up a little bit, which initially I was getting away from, but now I need to redo it. His forehead comes out. We'll work on the nose and all of that in a minute. I think initially I was going to do a mask. We could do it one of a couple of ways, and I'll discuss it as we get to it. Okay. All right, so his backside comes out here. This actually goes in a little bit. This comes in up here. I'm going to move his head forward as well as his ears. Like that. And then I'm actually going to stretch out the back of his ear. I just want to make his Nomad sculpt. You know what? Let's say, can you tilt the ends of the ears to point back a little bit, if that makes sense? Can you tilt the ends of the ears? If you're talking about here, so if we're following this profile here, yes, we're going to pull this out here. I'm not sure what's going on. Seemed to be a little anomaly there. Let me reduce the size of our brush. Ooh. Might not be enough resolution. Let me up that resolution just a little bit. I want this to follow the back of the head a little bit more. We're going to pull it down into the body, or back in into the head as well. Okay. Now that I know what this ear looks like, we might actually redo this ear. You know what, let's just do it. Let's go ahead and add another sphere. And we'll pull this up into position, scale it down. That's why it's always good to do your research on your subject ahead of time, which of course I was caught a little unaware on this. Like I said, the request came out of nowhere. I was asked, hey, can you guys do? And I'm like, hey, sure, why not? Okay, we're going to validate this. We're going to move this point up a little bit here. That might be a little big. Let's scale it down. And let's go to the side, because that is where we're going to trim our model. From the side here, I'm going to grab our trim tool. And again, we use the ellipse first. I'm going to reset that. I want a more elongated ellipse. Blah. All right, I like it right about there. All right, and then I might be able to just pull this back into the proper shape, like that. Oh, somehow I selected the head, my bad. I'm gonna pull this down here, pull this out here just a little bit, and we'll scale our brush down and pull the point of the ear out. There we go. Just want to make a simple character as a gift box. Silhouette Studio, again, Savannah, I am not sure. I am not familiar with Silhouette Studio, but enough people have asked about it, so I'm going to check it out. Alright, just want to tighten up this curve here a little bit. Let's increase the size and drop the intensity so our movements aren't too dramatic. And pull this up a little bit more into a point. Okay. Yeah, Silhouette Studio. I'm not familiar with it, but now that everybody is mentioning it, let's jump over here and I'm going to open up a tab. Let's see, Silhouette. Silhouette Studio America. Oh, I don't think that's the right thing. That's a Silhouette cutter machine. Silhouette Studio. Let's just call it 3D. 3D design tool. Is that it? Is that the proper design, plug-in, cut seamlessly? Is that the right application? That doesn't seem right to me. Oh, it is. Okay. I actually have a Silhouette printer, cutter, I should say, that I haven't used for a lot of years. Yeah, I'm not too familiar. I mean, I used Silhouette Studio at the time, but it was for cutting out two-dimensional graphics and vinyl and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I would say my first reaction is that's not what Silhouette. Okay, so there's Silhouette Studio and then there's Silhouette 3D design, plug-in, cut seamlessly, assemble 3D designs, and send them to be built by the Silhouette Alta 3D printer. Huh. Professional grade design, free to use, quick and easy image tracing. Yeah, I'd have to look into this a little more. I'm not exactly, I'm not familiar with this. SVGs, I'm familiar with SVGs, been using those for years. Due to permission, that's Mac issues, okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into this, but it doesn't look to be, I think I am new to 3D printing studio. I love Silhouette Studios, but you have to have the business edition to save SVG files. Yeah, so I use Affinity Designer, and I can create, and here's my recent, here's something I did for a client, and exported this as an SVG, and then used it in Bamboo Studio to emboss this onto
that price. We do not
a coaster. So I'm familiar with the SVG format, but SVG it's scalable vector graphic, whereas what we're doing is stereolithography, STLs. That's completely different. This is two-dimensional space. 3D is, again, working in XYZ in three-dimensional space. I have seen people create on Silhouette and transfer to another website. It seems really confusing. Yeah, it really depends on your application. I'd be curious to have a conversation with you about what you're trying to do. So here's what I recommend. We are doing this thing on Thursdays going forward. And we are doing things on, you can use STLs. So if you use Fusion 360, you can use STLs in Fusion 360 to extrude, use the extrude feature to create things, convert them to 3D. So I use Fusion 360, I use Nomad Sculpt, and in the past, I've used ZBrush, I've used Cinema 4D, Lightwave by NewTek, a little bit of Maya, Blender. So I'm very familiar with the 3D world, and I've literally been using Photoshop and Illustrator since they were invented over 30 years ago. Professionally, both in a in an agency environment, and then also for my own marketing and design business that I did, branding and consultancy I did for businesses for 25 plus years, I think. And then the other application I was talking about was Bamboo Studio. Now that's a slicer application. Which screen did it wind up on? Hold on. Hello. There we go. Bamboo Studio, where'd you go? It's being shy. It doesn't want to come out and play. Why not? That's weird. Bamboo Studio. All right, let's try it again. Let me see if I can pull it up on this screen here. Bamboo Studio. This is a slicer application. Oh, there it is. It's over here on this screen. It's hidden. Sorry. No, it's not on this screen either. All right. I think I need to restart my machine. I can't show it to you, unfortunately. Let me open up a Creality print. It's basically the same thing. Creality print. There we go. All right, so this is an example of a slicing application where you would put your 3D models, and I'll just open one real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the printer stand that I'm currently creating, or printing, I should say, or assembling. I've printed it all out. So this, you bring your 3D models in here, and then you print them out. Okay, so again, this isn't for creating 3D models. This is for printing them. Creating them is, again, Nomad Sculpt, ZBrush, Blender, Fusion. What you're talking about, it sounds like, is an application that's used for, again, two-dimensional graphics. Again, you can use SVGs in a 3D application. I think maybe you can actually even import an SVG in this application. Let's try it real quick. Sorry, Sky. I told you this might happen. Let's see, where did I put that? Textures. It's not going to be a PNG. It's going to be an SVG. Decals. SVG. All right, here's an Iowa Hawkeyes SVG. Can I import this? Let's find out. Haven't actually tried it. Looks like I might have locked up. Yeah, it doesn't want to import it. Advanced. No. All right, so anyway, I'm not sure that you can in Nomad. I'd have to research on that. Phoenix. I'm waiting to create my designs. Is this site where you would create and send right to the printer? I'm not sure what you're asking, if there is one or if you know of one. Hey, James, how you doing? I'm doing good, Phoenix. How are you doing? Got a question, hoping I can get your expertise on. All right, well, hopefully I can answer your question. And if I can't, maybe there's somebody here who can. Shoot, what's your question? Anyway, Savannah, while I'm waiting for Phoenix's question, Thursdays we're doing more of an open forum, come on, be my guest type of thing. So that might be a place, that might be a time for you to come on and take part in our discussion via voice, so we can answer your question a little more easily and a little more completely. So I've learned between your health and other people how to make articulated action figure. Okay. After you create this design, then what do you do? All right. Stick around long enough, Savannah, and we will get to that. I have a question. I'm hoping to get your expertise on. I'm excited. I'm having issues with the ball joints at smallest scales not being strong enough and breaking. Okay. Yeah, Savannah, that's the reason I'm going to invite you. So give us a follow. Again, I'm thinking Thursdays. Terrell gets over here usually around 9:30, 10. We eat breakfast, and then we come down to the shop. So I'm thinking the live will probably start at the latest around 11 a.m. on Thursdays. I'm going to try to make that a solid time, and even if he's not here, I'll do it myself. So yeah. So yeah, come down and join us on Thursdays. Be part of the live stream. I'm still trying to figure out how to do multi-guest. I did it this morning, and we had two people from somewhere over in the Middle East, and they weren't even talking in English. I was just like, oh gosh, I had to cancel the live and start over because I didn't know what to do. So, you're off on Thursdays. Good. Yo, I'm learning to sculpt right now in Nomad. Excellent. You're in the right place with that, Renegade. Any advice? Okay, so no, I figured it out, Phoenix. So when it comes to articulation, one of the challenges that you'll all face in creating articulated models is, especially as you start scaling them down. Let me see. I've got one right here. This little guy. Okay, so here's my penguin Santa Claus. My wife's a nut for penguins, so I created a line of penguins in all different costumes, and we're just going crazy with that. But one of the things that you'll run into is as you get smaller with your prints, the articulation may break down inside because the articulation's not big enough. It's not beefy enough. Can I make keychains and whatever I would like in Nomad? Yeah. Yes, you certainly can. In fact, this is a keychain. See the little hole up here through his hat? And you can do flat stuff as well. So yeah, Phoenix, the best advice I've got specifically on ball joints. Were you here yesterday when we were doing the ball joint? Let me go ahead and save this. We'll come back to this guy. Don't panic. I'm going to save this, and we'll open up the ball joint that we were working with yesterday. It's ironic that you bring this up because this is what we were working on yesterday. Let me turn on X-ray. All right, so this is a ball joint that I was demonstrating yesterday, and it is literally a ball. I just want to make 3D models for a game I made jewelry for. Excellent. Any tips for me? I'm trying to start making things like chain pendants and rings and stuff for five something. And Alien, yes, he's on live 4:30 to 5:30 Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. So the advice I can make for you, that Renegade, is, it really depends on what you're trying to model, and we're showing techniques here. I'm modeling Tails from Sonic today for a little bit before I have a dinner date that I've got to go to. And then Phoenix here just asked me about ball joints. So this in places like this is where, if I were you, I would show up and get input and advice on how to make stuff. So yes, you're in the right place. If you don't know what FiveM, it's like a modded GTA that people play, role play. Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, we actually worked with a designer for a while that was doing rings, and years ago when I was heavy into production, we printed out his ring prototypes in resin. He came up with some pretty cool stuff. But let me address that real quick. Let me address this ball joint real quick, Renegade, and we'll come back to your question about rings. Phoenix, you still there? I'm assuming you are. I can't see my viewer list. I want to make sure you're still there so I'm not talking to the air. So Phoenix, this is a